let me tell you something most people never realize until it's actually too late. You don't get rich slowly. You get rich all at once, but only after you've clawed your way to the first 100K. See, that's the breaking point, the actual turning point. The whole why am I even doing this kind of moment right before the momentum really starts to kick in. And if you're not there yet, I get it. I've been there too, right? It feels like every dollar is absolutely fighting you, like you're running an uphill battle, dragging your future behind you. But listen, there's a reason Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right hand man, once said that first 100K, it's a bugger, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do, find a way. But of course, he means every legal means necessary, of course. But that's a billionaire telling you that the game doesn't even start until you hit that first six figures. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why 100K changes absolutely everything. Not just mathematically, but also psychologically as well. And also I'm going to show you the 3 strategies my wife and I used to personally get there and to stay there. And look, if you're already close, this might actually be that final push that you need. Charlie Munger, he wasn't exaggerating. The first 100K really is the hardest, not just because of how long it takes, but because of how little it actually feels like it's working. It's like planting seeds every single day and seeing nothing sprout for years. You're saving, you're investing, and you're doing everything right, but the results, they feel microscopic. And that's exactly the trap that keeps most people stuck. See, what Munger was really trying to say wasn't just go out and make a butt ton of money. He was saying this: get over that hill, because once you do, gravity, it starts working for you, not against you. And that's the entire theme of this video. It's about understanding why 100K is the true breaking point. Not because it's some magical number, but because it marks the end of friction and the beginning of actual momentum. Before 100K, you're forcing it, right? After 100K, it starts to pull itself forward for you. You're still in control, but now the math and the mindset, it all starts compounding. But first, let's talk about what nobody tells you. Capital doesn't just grow. Capital, it scales differently. The same stock market, the same 10% return, but somehow one person makes 10 bucks and the other makes 10 grand. How's that even fair? The truth is, capital doesn't just grow, it scales, meaning the more money you have, the more powerful each percentage point becomes. So it's not just about time in the market this time. Now it's about mass in the market. Let's say that you earn 10% return in a year, right? Now, if you only got $100 invested, that's like 10 bucks. It's not life changing. But now if you have 100 grand invested, that same 10% return suddenly becomes 10 grand. So the same market, the same year, the same risk, but completely different outcomes. That's what people mean when they say it takes money to make money. But what they should be saying is this instead: it takes enough money for the returns to start making a huge difference. You see, when you start investing from zero, for example, investing, it feels like an absolute joke. A 7% return on your first $1,000, that's $70 a year. You can make that honestly selling something on Facebook Marketplace like tomorrow. So that's why most people quit. They think that it's not even worth it. But the game changes at scale, like I was mentioning earlier. So that's why hitting 100 grand is so important, right? It's when your returns finally start outrunning your time. So as an actionable step, if you only got a small amount invested right now, that's okay. Just change your mindset on how you think about it. Don't focus on the returns at the beginning. Focus on building the base that your future returns will scale on. If you're adding to your investment accounts each month, that's exactly what you need to do. Even small amounts, you're going to be building your capital engine. The goal isn't to win now. The goal is to build the machine that's going to win later. And once you get your capital engine moving, that's when momentum really starts to kick in. In fact, your next $100,000 will come even faster than your first, and the one after that, even faster. So let me show you exactly how the wealth snowball effect works. Your first 100K might take a decade. The second, half that time. The third, even faster. Wealth doesn't grow on a straight line. It grows like a snowball. So I want you to imagine you're at the top of a hill and you pack a tiny snowball in your hands. That's your first savings. Now you roll it down the hill. At first, it barely moves. It's small, it's fragile. So you're pushing more than it's actually rolling. But keep going. and something really wild starts to happen. It starts growing on its own, not because you're working harder, but because it's now big enough to start growing on itself. The same thing happens with wealth. The more you build, the faster it starts building for you. So let's break it down using real numbers. Say you're investing $10,000 a year at 7% return. To get to your first 100K, it'll take you roughly about 7.8 years. It feels slow because in the beginning, you're doing all the heavy lifting. So let's say you keep going with that same $10,000 every year. To reach 200K total, that'll take you another 5 years because now your first 100,000, it's working for you. By the time you're at 300K, it takes only 3.8 years, then 3 years to hit 400,000, and then lastly 2.5 years to reach $500,000. You didn't save faster. The snowball, it just got bigger and it rolled harder. So if you're on the first stage, still building your snowball, don't quit. The beginning, it always feels slow, but you're not just saving money, you're building that momentum. So set a reoccurring transfer and automate your savings. And when it gets boring, I want you to just smile because boring just means it's working, even if it doesn't feel like it. But here's the most important thing that people don't realize. That early momentum, it's not coming from your investments. It's coming from you. Because in the beginning, it's not compound interest doing any of the work or doing most of the work. It's your discipline. So let me show you just how important your savings really are, especially with that first 100K. But before we dive into the next part, if you've been getting value from this video so far, do me a quick favor and tap that like button or even hit the subscribe if you haven't already. It's totally free. It takes less than a second and helps this channel reach more people who are trying to build real wealth, just like you. So to thank you, here's an otter with his rock, just living his best frugal life. Thanks so much for being here. Now let's get back to it. The first 100K, it's mostly savings. Everyone loves to talk about compound interest, but people assume that if they just invest early, the returns, they'll carry them. But in the early game, compounding, it's quiet, it's slow, and it's almost invisible. Because until your account has some real weight behind it, most of your progress comes from how much you save, not how well your investments perform. In fact, studies show that when you're building towards your first 100K, up to 85% of your net worth growth, it's from your contributions, not the market. That flips later on, but right now, you're the engine. So let's take a real world example. Let's say you save $15,000 a year and you earn a modest 4.5% return. You'll end up with about $105,000 at the end of those 6 years. But here's the kicker. 85% of that came from your savings. Only 15% actually came from growth. Even if you're earning a stronger return, let's say 10%, you're still the one doing most of the heavy lifting. The market helps, but it's not driving yet. You are. So if you're still in the early stages, don't obsess over picking the perfect stock or the trendiest ETF. Focus on saving aggressively and consistently. That means automating your transfers, even cutting back on just one category like dining out or subscriptions or whatever's leaking cash. Because the faster you can front load your wealth, the sooner the math actually starts working for you. Remember, every dollar you save today is a worker that you send out tomorrow. So yes, compounding, it's real, but early on, you're not watching it, you're funding it. And that's where most people, they give up, not because they're lazy, but because they underestimate how hard the beginning actually feels. If you want to hit 100K faster, it's not just about patience, it's about having a system. And there's this simple 3-pillar approach that changed everything for my wife and me. And it's inspired by one of the most important personal finance books I've ever read, The Millionaire Next Door. So here's the playbook. 1, grow your income. 2, protect your spending. And 3, make every dollar work harder for you. So let's talk about how to increase your offense. All right, let's be honest. You can't save your way to 100K if you're only earning enough just to survive. There comes a point where cutting back won't move that needle anymore, and you got to start increasing your cash flow. One of the core lessons from the book, The Millionaire Next Door, is this. Most millionaires don't just budget well, they earn well too. And they live on far less than they make. They focus on growing their income in intentional ways too. And that's the key. The more you earn, the more you can save. And the faster you can build that capital base. Because like I said earlier, your savings, not your investment returns, are doing most of the heavy lifting early in the game. So instead of trying to budget your way to 100 grand on a tight budget, what if I told you just raise that ceiling? So here's a few paths you can take, and honestly, they're a lot more accessible than you think. You can learn a high income skill. Even within 6 to 12 months, you can make more than your 9 to 5 if you honestly just focus. You can start a small side hustle, tutoring, flipping, even consulting based off your current job skills, negotiating your salary, your freelance rate, your contract terms. That one conversation could honestly unlock thousands. And lastly, switching jobs strategically, of course, because a job hop could potentially net you 10 to 20% pay raise. Honestly, staying loyal could be costing you. But look, I get it. The job market, it's really unpredictable right now. But you still honestly got to try because no one's going to give you 100 grand. You got to go out and earn it. But you do need to think bigger than just budgeting apps because more income gives you more fuel. And right now, you're still climbing that hill and you need all the fuel you can get. So, as an actionable step, I want you to ask yourself this: what skill could I develop over the next 6 months that someone would pay me $500 a month for? That's your starting point. Then I want you to carve out 3 to 5 hours a week to work on it. It won't be fast and it won't be easy. But once you increase your offense, every dollar you earn becomes a tool to buy back your time. That's how the first 100K happens faster with great offense. But offense, it's only half the battle. You can still be earning 6 figures and still be broke if your money's leaking out the back door. So let's talk about the second pillar on how to stop lifestyle creep before it eats away at your progress by playing great defense. Earning more, it's powerful. But if your spending grows just as fast, you're not building wealth. You're just upgrading your expenses. This is what the book, The Millionaire Next Door, gets right that social media often doesn't. Wealthy people aren't just high earners, they're disciplined spenders. They budget, they plan, they drive reasonable cars and wear off brand shoes, not because they have to, but because they want freedom and they want control more than they want the validation. Here's the harsh truth, and honestly, it's the brutal truth. Most people, they don't want to hear it. If lifestyle keeps expanding with every single raise, you'll never escape that cycle. And that's lifestyle creep. It's the number one reason why most people who make 6 figures are still broke. Say you finally get a raise, an extra 800 bucks a month for say. It feels good, right? But instead of banking it, you upgrade your apartment, you bump up your car lease, and you treat yourself more often. Before you know it, that raise, it's completely gone. And you're still living paycheck to paycheck. Playing great defense means doing the absolute opposite. You lock in your current lifestyle and let your income upgrades widen that gap between what you earn and what you spend. That's your wealth gap. And the bigger it gets, the faster you grow. So as an actionable step, I want you to pull the last 30 days of transactions, your credit card, your debit, everything, right? Now I want you to use your bank's spending insights or in-app budgeting tools. Now, if you're in Canada, there's Coho or Wealthsimple. They make this incredibly easy. Now I want you to look at every category meticulously: food, travel, subscriptions, coffee even. And now I want you to ask yourself, does this reflect my priorities? Would I still buy this if no one else cared? Then I want you to make one change. Just cut off one reoccurring or even impulse category. Don't aim for perfect, just aim for margin so your money has room to actually breathe. Now remember, playing great defense isn't about depriving yourself. It's about protecting your progress so then you don't have to keep starting over every time life gets expensive. But there is one more piece of this puzzle. So let's talk about how to stretch that dollar even further by maximizing your efficiency. The government's taking a slice, inflation's taking a bite, and your bank, they're barely paying you to leave your money there. So here's the question: why let your dollar sit lazy when they could be working overtime for you? At this stage in your journey, you're doing the right things. You're earning more, you're spending less. Now it's time to optimize what you've already got, because the wealthiest people, they don't just make smart money moves. They keep more of it through tax planning, through quiet frugality, and strategic efficiency. And here's where stealth wealth enters the picture. When you stop trying to look rich, you gain the freedom to actually build quietly and to begin optimizing behind the scenes. It's not just humble, it's profitable. So let's start with the basics. If you're in Canada, tools like your TFSA or your RRSPs aren't just nice to haves. They're super powerful legal tax shelters that let you grow your money even faster. The TFSA, which is a tax-free savings account. It's a powerhouse. Every dollar invested grows tax-free. and you never get taxed when you pull it out on both the interest and also on the earnings. It's a flexible account for anything, investing, long-term goals, or even both. And then you have your RRSPs, which is your registered retirement savings plan. It lets you deduct your contributions from your current taxable income. It lowers your tax bill now and lets you grow your money tax-free until you withdraw it later on for retirement. And in the US, you've got your Roth IRA, your 401k, or even your HSA. Same idea, just different names. But when it comes to where your cash actually sits, don't settle for big banks giving you 0.01% in interest. Platforms like EQ Bank, Coho, or even Wealthsimple, they often offer like 3 to 5% on your savings with no account fees. This isn't a sponsorship, it's just being efficient. But it can be. So as an actionable step, here's what you need to do this week. Review your TFSA and RRSP accounts, or your US equivalent accounts. Next, I want you to move any of that idle cash from those low interest accounts into your high interest savings account. Lastly, you need to automate a small reoccurring transfer, even if it's like $50 a month, into one of those tax sheltered accounts. Remember, quiet moves, consistent gains, that's how efficiency compounds. And here's the best part. Once your system is set up, you don't need to hustle 24/7 anymore. And more importantly, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, because the strongest money, it's quietly built and it speaks for itself down the road. So remember, hitting 100K isn't just a milestone. It's the moment where everything starts working with you instead of against you. It's where your capital scales and finally earns meaningful returns. It's where your momentum builds like a snowball, faster with every roll. It's where your savings, not the market, carries you over that first hump. And lastly, it's where your wealth accelerates when you play smart offense, strong defense, and ruthless efficiency. That first 100K, it's not the end of the journey. It's a start of true freedom. And here's the truth. Most people, they'll never get there, not because they couldn't, but because they gave up when it felt like nothing was happening. So don't make that mistake. If you're earning more, saving better, building smarter, and subscribing, hitting that like button, you're already ahead of like 90% of the people. So stay humble, consistent, and protect your progress. Like your future honestly depends on it, because honestly, it really does. And if you ever want to hit that first 10K even faster, watch this next. I'll walk you through the exact habits my wife and I use to stack our first 10K without burning out. So thank you so much for watching. Stay focused, stay in the black, and I'll see you in the next one.